The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, happy Wednesday. Off the Bench, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Elliot, day after your birthday, I thought you would have gone hard last night. I thought you would have, you would have been late to the show. I thought maybe you wouldn't have shown up. I thought you would have been hungover. How'd you celebrate your birthday last night?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything special. Just went to dinner last night, so it was just a little family, get together for my birthday, and that's all it was really. So
shout out to Casey for losing your birthday parlay.
That's right. Well, I also lost it. To be fair,
well, we weren't going to blame. We can't blame you.
That's right.
We're not going to blame you.
The loss was on Terry Francona. He picked Gavin Lux.
Gavin Lux did not get a final at bat, unfortunately. So tough. But you win some, you lose some. I lose them all. But happy birthday to me.
So we you tried something different yesterday. You were positive, and then the one reason we figured that you were able to be positive is because the Reds didn't play the day before. I have a hard time believing that it's going to be easier for you to find something positive today. We'll talk about the Reds' loss against the White Sox in Game 1. Does set up Game 2 tonight. Of course, Pete Rose night at the ballpark, and there's a lot of Pete Rose we're going to be talking about today coming up here later on in the show. Rob Manfred, Major League Baseball, lifting the ban on the Hit King. What does that mean for his path to the Hall of Fame? We got that coming up here around the corner. Trey Hendrickson has this fan base probably as split as I can remember in quite some time. It is very interesting following how many people are picking sides in this particular situation and how divided the fan base has become because of it. And it's only going to get more heated, especially after yesterday arriving to practice in his golf attire to address the media in what many thought would have been the day before a Joe Burrow press conference today. That is not the case. Joe Burrow will address the media next week, and we'll touch on all of that coming up here around the corner. Jay Morrison, less than a half hour from now, is going to hop on with us, covers your Cincinnati Bengals, so looking forward to chatting with him. Casey, good morning. How are we today? Outside of losing that parlay, what else did you got going on yesterday?
Not a lot. I shaved, and
Oh,
I'm
my
wearing
goodness.
the mustache shirt.
You shaved and you believe.
And
Wow.
I believe. I'm going to the Reds game today.
Really?
Going with family, yeah.
Good for
Look at you.
My uncle-in-law is related to Pete Rose in some way.
Okay.
So are you a Pete Rose in law?
Are you a ceremonial captain?
No.
No, yeah.
No. In-law. My in-law, so...
No, so you're a Pete Rose in law.
Maybe? I don't know. His last name is Rose.
So you're basically Pete Rose's son.
Yeah, what is that game where you, how many people does it take to get to a certain person?
I don't know, but the Rizzler is 2 degrees away from the Pope.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm only 2 degrees of separation from Pete Rose.
So you're related to Pete Rose. That's wild. Good for you.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's what we got from
And
this
that's the
conversation.
takeaway from this conversation.
So
Is
Casey's
this
going to be
your daughter's first Reds game? Will Alex be in attendance?
Yes.
So technically speaking, this would be her first Reds game, right?
Yes, that would be right.
There
That
we
would be
go.
her
They
first
have to
game.
win that
They have
because
to
we'll
win.
start the record now. Her lifetime record starts tonight against the White Sox.
I mean, I hope they can get a win tonight. It really shouldn't be that hard, right?
No. You wouldn't think. And then you get a 4 spot in the top of the 10th.
Dang.
That was painful. Another one-run performance. They didn't get shut out, though. If I stole one of your positives, Elliot, I apologize. But I guess the positive of last night is they did not get shut out, although it was trending that way.
I would have rather him got shut out.
Actually, yeah, it did turn
Is
into a
it bad that I
negative.
was kind of pulling for it?
Elliot and I both predicted a 1-0 White Sox win, so that clip would have been fun to tweet if Ellie had not hit that home run. So the fact that we lost
it,
anyway, I would have rather just, had that.
Yeah, losing in blowout fashion is far worse than losing 1-0. Well, maybe not actually.
To the White Sox?
Maybe. Who knows? Go Reds, go! Go! Come on, Reds! Woo!
I'm a Reds fan.
That's what I am.
It's Pete Rose Day. I like it.
It
I like
is.
the sing-alongs lately. I like, last week you saw the, you obviously we had a little sing along with the Bengals theme.
That's
and now
right.
you drop, one verse of the Reds theme. I like it.
Yeah.
But, all right, off the bench again. Jay Morrison, the schedule release for the NFL comes out later on tonight. It's a lot of stuff, don't know what's real, what's not out there as far as leaks are concerned. Something's floating around. Potentially the Bengals at the Bills week 1. Schedule release comes out later tonight. We did this earlier in the week, but before Jay comes on, how are we feeling about who do you think the Bengals week 1 opponent is? Is it going to be in prime time? Is it going to be a 1 p.m. kickoff? How do you think the Bengals kick off the 25 season?
I'm going to choose to believe. I'm going to choose to believe the leaks because it's fun. I think they're opening Sunday Night Football week 1 in Buffalo.
That would be incredible.
It's been leaked.
Oh my
It's out
God,
there.
that would be incredible. That was the leak?
If it's not confirmed, there's a lot of people lying.
That would be
so.
That's going to be a tough 1-0 or a tough start to the season.
See,
0-1.
spin zone though. Would you rather lose to the Patriots in week 1 where you'd beat them in week 10?
You're right.
Or would you rather
You're
lose
right.
to the Bills where it's a
You know
coin
what?
flip late in the season
You're,
anyway?
you're right. Let's go Bills, Lions, Ravens. First 3 games out of the chute.
There was another leak, not quite as popular as that week 1 Sunday Night Football game, that the Bengals home opener is week 3, which would be a real stinger to be on the road week 1 and week 2. I don't know what the plan would be. They're obviously opened pretty easy last year, but if you have Buffalo in primetime week 1, what if they sent you to Baltimore week 2? That would just be a brutal way to start the season. Hopefully, if we are in primetime week 1, we get a little lighter. Week 2, maybe a light home opener. I don't know, Jags, Patriots, Jets, something along those lines. But hopefully those leaks are right. Week 1 Bills would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Joe Burrow against Josh Allen. Sunday Night Football, and I think you said that. If not, the leak I saw has them playing at Buffalo week 1, Sunday Night Football. Do you like? Again, you get that itch to get to week 1 to finally watch your team. You want that 1 o'clock kickoff, or you fine with settling for the Sunday Night Football primetime matchup? How do you feel about that?
Well, you wouldn't settle for it. I think the Sunday Night Football game rocks.
You would.
I think the only week that I would prefer to play at 1 o'clock is week 1.
Really?
Only
That's
because I'm waiting. Yeah. I'm waiting all year to see them back on the field, and I got to watch 2 full windows of plus Thursday night of games before the Bengals get out there. Sunday night's great, and it'll be awesome against Josh Allen and the Bills, but I don't know. I think the only week of the year I might prefer 1 o'clock is week 1. We have a contrary leak to what I just said about the Bengals having a week 3 home opener. As of 10 minutes ago, NFL Nerd said an NFL schedule leak. Jaguars at Bengals, week 2.
Okay.
So potentially the home opener right there after the primetime game in Jacksonville against the Bills. Jacksonville comes to Cincinnati, Travis Hunter in week 2 potentially against.
What was the Bengals' record at home last year? Did they have a winning record?
I don't know what they ended up. That's a good question.
I didn't think the Bengals had a winning record at home last year. I thought they were terrible.
They lost right off the rip to the Commanders and the Patriots.
Yeah.
It's certainly a big hole to dig out if you lost to the Ravens at home and the Steelers at home.
I don't know.
So some of the leaks, again, whether what you believe with this or not, but it looks like an official NFL Week 1 graphic. You can create anything online nowadays. But yeah, the Bengals at the Bills for Sunday Night Football Week 1. Some of the other ones that are being leaked, the Ravens at the Packers for Monday Night Football. Lamar at Lambeau, that'd be pretty cool. That's a nice Week 1 matchup for Monday Night Football if this ends up being the case. Browns, my former team, opening up at the Jets, and that would be a 1 o'clock kickoff. Shocker. Actually, I kind of like that. If I'm a fan of the Browns, I don't mind the 1 o'clock kickoffs.
That's one of the more 1 o'clock kickoff games I've ever heard.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. But, Shador, primetime. I'm just saying. But I get technically, we're all confused what primetime is anymore. 1 o'clock is the new prime. So
correct. Yeah, who knows? Actually, whenever Shador plays is primetime.
Yes.
Yep.
And as of now, that's on field 2 in the Berea practice facility.
Chiefs at the Chargers, another leaked one. That'll be. Are they doing a Friday night game? Did they do that last year?
The Brazil game was Friday night, was it
Yes.
not?
Yep.
So is that what that one is? The Chiefs at the Chargers? I didn't even pay attention. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We'll worry about
Brazil
that
game is broadcast exclusively on YouTube.
Oh.
on the Tube of the U.
How about that?
It is bizarre, and I feel like the NFL might be spreading themselves a little thin, though that one is free, so it certainly helps and will help the viewership.
So YouTube, Peacock, Netflix, Amazon.
Paramount Plus.
Are they on Paramount Plus, too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Hulu up next.
All right, we'll step away for a few.
They have live sports.
Yeah. They do.
Is that their ad still? Do they still do
Yeah,
that ad?
Hulu has live sports.
All right, off the bench, we'll step away for a few. We got Elliot's headlines coming up. Jay Morrison around the corner, a lot to talk about with him. We'll dissect what the first month of the season could potentially look like for the Bengals, as we know how important it is for the Bengals to get off to a hot start for the first time in years. 1-3, their record in September, back-to-back seasons, and we know how that's gone. Them spending the rest of the season trying to dig themselves out of that hole. They cannot afford that this season. And, of course, the schedule will kind of give us a good glimpse as to what we can expect with that. We'll also talk about the media scrum yesterday at the beginning of practice when it came to Trey Hendrickson. And Trey Hendrickson, I guess, met with the media for about 23 minutes, just going on and on and on. Did he sway you guys to his side at all? We'll discuss that coming up around the corner as well. More off the bench when we come back. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Ruring, and Jacob Tissett with you here. 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. The Cincinnati Reds will be back in action coming up later on tonight, Game 2 of a 3-game series at Great American Ballpark with the Chicago White Sox. Unfortunately, the Reds dropped to the White Sox in Game 1 last night. That does set up tonight's matchup. Game 2, of course, Pete Rose night at the ballpark, expecting a sellout. There's going to be a lot of festivities going on before the game. 5:45, the ballpark opens. Everyone in attendance will get a Pete Rose replica jersey. Everyone's going to get an extra large when you enter the ballpark, but there will be exchange tables throughout the concourse, throughout the ballpark, for you to be able to go find a medium or a large and get a size that fits you. So just keep that in mind whenever you get there. There'll be a Q&A session that starts at 6:30 with Marty Brenneman and some Reds Hall of Famers and some of Pete Rose's closest friends. That'll go to about 5 till, I believe, and then they'll start the honor guard and obviously the pregame ceremonies there. A lot of Pete Rose's family, not Casey McAllister, of course. A lot of Pete Rose's family will be there as honorary captains, although technically Casey will be there, but not down on the field. But Pete Rose's family will be down on the field.
How do you know that? It's a bold claim.
True. That's a fresh shave. He didn't do that for no reason, to be honest.
That's right.
With you.
He's got the blue shirt out.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pete Rose night at the ballpark, and a lot of Pete Rose news that we'll dive into later on in the show. But before we do that, before we get to Jay Morrison, before we talk all things Bengals as well, let's send it to Elliot for Elliot's headlines.
Score updates, breaking news, local and national headlines, whatever's going on in the world of sports, Elliot has you covered. Off the Bench brings you Elliot's headlines.
That's right. That's right. It's time for Elliot's headlines. The greatest headlines, maybe of all time, outside of any other headlines that exist outside of this show. But we'll start with, well, you know what? Let's be crazy. John Rothstein, per John Rothstein.
Okay.
Source, next season's crosstown shootout between UC and Xavier will be played on Friday night. Friday night, December 5th at the Cintas Center. So if you're looking forward to that, I can't remember the last time it was on a Friday. It's usually on those Saturdays, but I'm excited. December 5th, we'll see you guys there. Xavier versus UC. We'll see if Patino can start hot against Wes Miller. Rolling on here with the other headlines, Major League Baseball. The Reds, they lose 5-1, as we already said. Andrew Rabbit, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run. Couldn't have looked any better. 7 strikeouts. Ellie, he hit the game-tying home run in the ninth inning, the bottom of the ninth inning, but wasn't good enough. Obviously, Emilio Pagan gives up 4 runs in the 10th.
1 run's usually not good enough.
No.
This is
That's
professional
what they say.
baseball.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
So 13 games out of 40 when you only score 1 run or less.
That's not going to win many of those 13 games.
No.
13's a high number.
No. Nick Lodolo, Nick Lodolo takes on Davis Martin, I believe is the name, tonight at 7:14 in honor of Pete Rose. 7:14, I guess 14, they're doing the time thing.
They sure are.
At 14 as well. The Athletics, they destroyed the Dodgers 11-1. The A's hit 5 home runs. 2 of them by Jacob Wilson. Congratulations, Jacob.
Thank you.
The Giants, they beat the Diamondbacks 10-6. The Mariners, they beat the Yankees in extras 2-1. You have the Padres winning 6-4 over the Angels. The Royals lose in walk-off fashion to the Astros. Isaac Paredes, walk-off home run, his very first walk-off home run in his career. The Rangers beat the Rockies 4-1. Shout out to the Rockies. The Cubs, they walked off the Marlins 5-4 last night in the bottom of the ninth. They were down significantly and were able to pull it off, so good for them. The Braves, they win 5-2 over the Nationals, but I guess bigger news coming out of Braves camp is Ronald Acuna is gearing up to begin his rehab assignment. He tore his ACL last May. The Mets, they beat the Pirates. They fall to 15 games below 500. 15 games below 500, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Good for them. Javier Baez, he homered twice last night, including the walk-off home run in the 11th inning over the Red Sox. Good for Javier Baez. It's looking up for everybody except for the Reds, so I'm happy for, and the Pirates. The Reds and the Pirates, and the Rockies. The Reds, the Pirates, and the Rockies. 10-9, the final score between Detroit and Boston. The Guardians, they shut out the Brewers 2-0. Heading over to the Association, the Thunder, they beat the Nuggets 112-105 and lead that series 3-2. Jokic, 44 points, 15 rebounds in the loss. The Pacers.
My Pacers.
Jacob's
Our
Pacers. And we've talked a lot about the Pacers this year.
That's right.
I can't remember a show where we haven't talked about the Indiana.
No. I do have some stats from this game.
Okay, well, they won by 9 to eliminate the Cavaliers in Game 5. 114-105, the final score. Halliburton dropped 31, 8 assists.
Whew, man, what a game. Overrated, right?
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Looked pretty good in this series.
That's what they voted on.
Yeah, looked pretty good in this series. The Cavs started the season 15-0, and we were pestered pretty continually to talk about that hot start, so I'll do that now. The Cavs are the first team in MLB, NBA, NFL, or NHL history to start a season 15-0 and then be eliminated from the playoffs before the conference finals.
That stinks.
That was the MLB, NBA, NFL, and NHL.
Oh, no.
First team ever. So congratulations to them. Darius Garland, before the game last night, said, this franchise has come back from down 3-1 before. Didn't this time. No LeBron. The Cavs this season at home, 36-5. 0-5 against the Indiana Pacers in the regular season and postseason.
That's actually pretty cool. That's a cool stat.
That's right. And then Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals will be on the same day as the Indianapolis 500. This is the first time the city of Indianapolis has hosted both of those events on the same day in a very, very long time.
How about that?
So that'll be a very fun day in the city.
Good for Indiana.
That's right.
I like the state of Indiana.
In 49 states, it's just basketball.
Hey, if you're the Cavs, by the way, you've run it with that core for quite a few years now. If Giannis Antetokounmpo is available, do you pair Garland, Mobley, and a first-round pick to go get Giannis to pair with Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, I don't know how you can really keep this core together anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Mobley gets the massive bonus for Defensive Player of the Year. You just paid Donovan Mitchell. They have to be close to that second apron, right? I mean, the NBA contract situation is very, very bizarre, but they have to be pretty close to that. I don't know how long you can run this back, so we'll see what happens. I would expect some big blow-ups in the East. The Celtics have already said that they're looking to change their roster, especially with that Tatum injury. So, I mean, we might get Cooper Flagg to the West, Giannis to the West. Maybe you get a Garland to the West or something like that, and the Celtics send someone to the West. These conferences are going to get further and further apart.
Yeah, hopefully, all I can hope for is Derek White remains on the Celtics. Because the Celtics need a leader.
That's right.
And that's what Derek White brings to Boston.
USA.
That's right. That's right. NHL news. The Stars, they take a 3-1 series lead with a 3-1 win over the Winnipeg Jets yesterday. Shout out to them. Continuing on in headlines, this is local headlines. How about this? I said I was going to mention it during the show. I'm going to mention it right now. If you missed it last night, Chatterbox Sports will be hosting. I don't want to venture to say I don't want to use the word first, but I'll say one of the first, if not the first, amateur, I believe, golf tournament that where the winning scramble team, 2-man scramble team, gets $100,000. So Chatterbox Sports, if you missed that, if you're listening to the radio or if you're watching right now and don't know what I'm talking about, go to the Chatterbox Sports Twitter account, okay? And then all you got to do is go to the pinned tweet, and it'll explain everything right there. 513golf.com as well. You can sign up and register for this. Again, it's a 2-man scramble, $100,000 to the winning team. There's going to be a bunch of other prizes as well, including, the closest to the pin stuff. So, again, if you were a golfer, if you enjoy golf, if you think you're decent enough at golf and can find a friend that's also decent enough at golf, you will have a shot to win this event. Kenner and I will not be able to compete because we're not good enough. So, unfortunately, we're eliminated.
Yeah, when we were at Muirfield last week and we were supposed to golf, I was curious what they were going to put as my handicap on there.
Yeah.
And everyone kept calling me Max. I don't know what that was about. I thought that was my nickname, but no, they were just calling people by their handicap. So Max was my name for the day. As far as that goes, not a good golfer over here. Not a good golfer, nor have I ever pretended to be. So
it's about the vibes.
But it is
it's about the vibes.
Yeah, it's all about the vibes. Of all the things that I really stink at, it's easily the most expensive, though, as far as golf is.
Yeah.
But,
That's right. There was some other headlines regarding Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson yesterday. I imagine we will talk about that later, so I won't mention it now. But obviously, some significant news out of the commissioner's office that broke yesterday and had all of Twitter up in arms or very excited. It was
what a
either one or the other.
coinky-dink. We got Pete Rose night tonight.
Interesting how that works.
What a coincidence.
You
The
think-
moral outrage of however long ended.
You think your guy Don got that done?
I don't think he didn't get it done.
Yeah,
You're Don.
your guy Don. All right. Well, that's headline.
We got one more headline. Bengals lost a scout earlier this week. Christian Sarkisian was hired as the athletic department's new general manager at Northwestern. But today it seems they filled that role. They hired Trey LeBounty as a scouting research analyst per his LinkedIn. And he had previously been an analytics intern for the Bills, and he played football for the Stanford Cardinals. So a long list of great analytics people in the NFL come from Stanford. So hopefully he can be next on that list.
Oh.
Those are your
All right. So off the bench, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Jay Morrison covers your Bengals. He'll join us coming up here around the corner. So, guys, I didn't want to air dirty laundry on the show.
Okay.
But I've missed a lot of time on the show as of late, and I don't want to make things awkward. The reason I haven't been back in the studio for a couple days is because things are awkward between Trace and I. All right. Trace, my boss, had the nerve to text me and say, you need to show up for work. And now things are personal between us. There is nothing worse than when your boss texts you and says, hey, buddy, you need to come do your job. And I can't believe the nerve of that guy. I mean, for Trace to think that he has the power to ask me to do my job, who the hell does he think he is? I have never felt more close to Trey Hendrickson in my life. I related to him so much yesterday. Can you believe the poor guy? How does he sleep at night with the stress of your boss texting you, just reminding you that you need to come to work to get paid? I mean, T's and P's to Trey Hendrickson as he just navigates through this very tough time.
No, it's a nightmare.
That was good, Justin. I really want to stop and appreciate what he just did.
That was incredible.
That was really good.
We're going to have to clip that before the congratulations because it was unbelievable. That was one of the better bits, I would say, we've had on the show in a long time, and distantly Kinner's best.
Yeah.
And for the radio listeners, that is a bow.
He bowed.
But no, Trey Hendrickson, I know we're going to talk about it more with Jay. Once we get the thumbs up that Jay's ready to rock, we'll move over to him. But look, we knew this thing took on a new layer yesterday, and I'm kind of glad, to be honest, because like I said, every time something of Trey comes out, it's worded in like a breaking news type of way, and then you read the news and you start to read the articles, and you're like, well, we knew this. There's nothing new here. There's nothing different. I mean, when things get a little too quiet, Trey gets bored and screams, nobody's talking to me, and then everyone's like, oh, my God, I can't believe the Bengals aren't talking to him. And then you realize that they have talked to him. There's just nothing new to say to him. And then it just leads to all this weird extra drama. Yesterday, though, to Trey's credit, he's taken the bull by the horns at this point. I do appreciate what he did yesterday. I still think he came across looking silly at times, but I do appreciate the fact that he's not just putting out tweets or going on random shows. He's showing up to practice, and he addressed the media in 23 minutes, gave the media a lot of time yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's my first question isn't for Trey Hendrickson or for anyone in the media. It's for the Bengals organization. You had a practice going on yesterday, and you let Trey Hendrickson come in and air 23 minutes of grievances to the media during practice. He was on the side of the practice field. Everyone was right behind him going through drills. How do you let that happen? If he wants to do that, he should stand on the sidewalk outside the facility and air those grievances. I don't know why that was, how that shook out. So, that was certainly the first issue I had yesterday, but I thought it was very weird that, Trey kind of echoed the Bengals front office sentiment that they've pushed pretty hard for a short-term deal, and it seems to be in direct contradiction to not having any communication with the front office if they're pushing very hard for a short-term deal. So I'm really more confused yesterday after 23 minutes of media. It doesn't seem like Trey Hendrickson has any interest in working with the Bengals. He has interest in getting his long-term big money deal, which doesn't benefit the Bengals whatsoever. So, yeah, if that's the move, people have been saying, he can retire. He doesn't have to honor the deal. Well, enjoy retirement.
There was a lot of quotes, and we'll get into them during this show, but I thought Trey Hendrickson came out of that looking terrible. And I'm not pro Trey Hendrickson during this time. I think when you have a contract, you should probably honor it and not immediately try to renegotiate it. But that's just my opinion. It's probably not the way business is done in the National Football League. It just feels like on a 3-year deal, and then 2 out of the 3 years you've been constantly making a fuss about it. There was a mistake made, evidently. The agent made a mistake. He did not value Trey at probably what he should have been valued at. Trey now sees that and gets upset. I understand that frustration. I 100% understand where Trey's coming from. The issue is I just don't know what you want the Bengals to do. Why are the Bengals forced to renegotiate? I don't get that part. Out of good faith, is it because it's what good organizations do? I don't know. I feel like a good organization goes out of their way and signs a player early for I would say a bargain deal. I think that's what a good organization does.
Isn't this what we wanted them to do with the receivers?
Correct. So to each their own in this situation. I saw the poll yesterday that who's it? Jake Lisco, I think, tweeted out, Casey. I'm pretty sure that was right. Mm-hmm. And he was like, who do you blame? Both, neither, Trey, or the Bengals front office. I was pretty shocked to see only 8% of that poll had blame on Trey Hendrickson alone. I mean, obviously, if the communication part is true, then yeah, of course I blame the Bengals front office. But it sounds like they were actively trying to talk to him. He just didn't like what they were saying. So that's a different thing than from not communicating. As somebody who wants this situation to end and be done with it before the preseason starts eventually, we got a long way to go with this. I thought Trey Hendrickson came away yesterday looking about as bad as you could look. I don't think he accomplished one single thing by going out in that field and discussing this.
Jay Morrison, he is getting logged in, so we'll get to him in a second. But yeah, like some of the stuff he was. So the one thing that confused me, there's a lot of things to take away from that scrum yesterday. Things are getting personal between him and Zach Taylor. That's what I was joking about earlier. I thought that was weird. He said it's now personal between Zach Taylor. He was very disappointed that Zach Taylor texted him to let him know that he would be fined if he did not report, to camp. And I just thought that's a very basic thing that teams do, and maybe show up for camp, and then you don't have to worry about those texts. But the one that caught my attention the most, guys, was when he said he will not play this upcoming season under this current deal. That caught my attention. I think that caught everyone's attention. But when he got pressed on it, he really wouldn't over commit to it. Okay, so he said he would not play this up. He would not play this upcoming season under his current deal. But then when he was pressed about would he miss games if this carries in to camp into the season, he went on a 2-minute answer that really had no answer, guys. So I don't know. I feel like this is he already let it be known that he's bluffing at this point because he was non-committal when asked about it.
Where's the confusion lie? He's going to hold out if he's on this contract, but he's not going to miss games. I mean, it's pretty clear.
you in Buffalo. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know why we're all confused. He says he's going to hold out, and we all know he's going to play. So why would he act like he's not going to play?
I don't know. But nonetheless, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett. Anything else as we close this segment up? Is there anything else that stood out from yesterday's press conference? Again, 23 minutes. He said a lot of stuff that we already knew. But yeah, like I said, it was that things are getting personal now, is what he said. And then, of course, not going to play this season under this current contract. Those were the two big for me. Did I miss anything? Was there anything else that stood out to you guys during the chat yesterday?
He said long-term contracts are a sign of respect between both of the sides. And while I certainly agree to an extent, I think that does change pretty drastically when you're talking about a 30-year-old.
Correct.
We do respect you in the level you play at right now, and that's why we're offering you a short-term extension so you can capitalize on that peak level of play while you still have it.
Also, what's a long-term? What's the definition of that in the NFL? 4 years?
I would assume 3 to 4 years is what he's talking about here.
On a 3-year deal. I don't get it. I know you want another contract, Trey. We understand how this all works, but my God, it just doesn't make sense for me to continue to go on about a contract that, I mean, your agent messed up on. That's the only thing I can say.
Jamar Chase bet on himself and went into the last year of his contract and was rewarded for it heavily by being paid at the top of a new market this year.
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson, to no fault of his own, did not.
Yeah.
And he signed a 3-year extension, in the middle of another contract, and now he wants to do it again? I don't know.
All right, off the bench, we'll continue on talking Cincinnati Bengals. The NFL schedule release comes out later on tonight. And, of course, for some teams, some fans, they don't care about what the schedule looks like. You know who you're going to play, maybe semi-curious about when you play these opponents. But I think for the Cincinnati Bengals, it's very important who they play in that first month of the season. When you think back to the last 2 seasons, starting out 1-3, and then spending the remainder of the season trying to dig yourself out of a hole from the mistakes made so early in the season, it's been disappointing finishes the last couple of years because of those slow starts. So who the Bengals play in the first month definitely matters, and we'll find that out later on tonight. We'll talk about that with Jay Morrison coming up around the corner, plus get his view on what happened yesterday at practice with the 23-minute conversation with, of course, Trey Hendrickson. Jay Morrison joins us next. All right, and we are back off the bench. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett. Jay Morrison will join us in 1 second. I did get an interesting message about why we're all beating up on Trey Hendrickson so much for outplaying his contract, and this is actually a very good one. It does make me stop and think a little, and I want you guys to think about this too. Hunter Green right now is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, and the Reds are paying him $6 million a year. What if at a certain point Hunter Green and his agent go to the Reds and say, you know what, I am pitching way above what we agreed to from a few seasons ago. I refuse to pitch until I am being paid like one of the top pitchers in baseball. Wouldn't that be the same thing? And I don't really have an answer for him because I don't think that question is necessarily wrong, right? We'll get to that coming up, but I did think that was an interesting response. Shout out to Craig who sent that in. But we'll get to that in a moment. But let's bring on Jay Morrison, covers your Cincinnati Bengals. Jay, we appreciate your time here today. Originally, and we will talk about this, we brought you on mainly to talk about the schedule release later on tonight. You always do a good job of really trying to put all the pieces together and predict what it's going to look like. We'll get to the schedule in a moment. But I think what everyone wants to talk about in Bengals country right now is, although it's an ongoing story that at one point to me was starting to get exhausting, there seems to be new layers added to it yesterday with Trey Hendrickson, who addressed yourself along with many other media members at Bengals practice. A very unique happening while practice was going on yesterday. I'm sure you expected to meet with Trey Hendrickson, but were you expecting it to break out like that?
No, we were not expecting to meet with Trey Hendrickson. We were all surprised. It was actually, everybody was lined up on the street taking video of the guys walking into practice, and I just assumed everybody's waiting on Joe Burrow, and that was the case. And one of the Bengals PR staffers said, "Any interesting arrivals so far?" And he knew Trey was there, and I hadn't seen him. And then we get inside of the field, and we see Trey there. It's like, well, what's he doing here? And then we find out, well, yeah, he wants to talk to you guys after practice. And it was maybe the most unique, surreal experience since I've been covering the team to be interviewing a guy on the practice field while the team is practicing behind him, and not just the setting, but the things he was saying, and really kind of laying into the front office and the coaching staff.
Was there anything he said that you said? There was a lot of things that caught your attention, but like for us, we've talked about this story for a while. There hasn't been new layers to it. It's always the communication stuff that people bring up. But I thought the Zach Taylor comments were interesting, saying that things are, getting personal. And then also when you and the media pushed back on him when he had said that he's willing to miss games this upcoming season. But when pressed about it, or he said he would not play under his current deal, but when pressed about whether he would miss games, he never really gave a committal answer to that. What was your biggest takeaway from that conversation yesterday as far as what added new layers to this?
Well, those conflicting answers about sitting out games were flipped. Maybe it was just the way that was cut up and presented elsewhere. Okay. The first time he was asked about it is when he gave that long, meandering answer, non-answer, essentially. And then it was later when Paul Dehner Jr. came back and said, "Will you play on your current deal?" And he emphatically said no. And I think he truly believes that right now today's May 14th, May 13th yesterday. I think he truly believes that. I don't think it was bluster, but he has to say that. I mean, he has no leverage anyhow. You lose even more leverage if you're like, well, no, I'm not going to sit out. And so I do think he believes it. I think he still is holding out hope that a deal is going to somehow get done. And so we'll see. When we get to September 6th, things might feel a little different in Trey's world. And, I'd be surprised to see him sit out games, but he's really angry right now. He's really hurt. He was emotional yesterday. And I think even that, he said this was all set off by the text that he got from Zach Taylor, which was basically just a heads up. This is in the CBA, don't want you to get caught off guard. It wasn't, I don't think it was couched, or it was presented as the way that he was couching it, and as, kind of a threat. And Trey even admitted later in the conversation that Zach texted, I reacted, and I need to learn. That's something I need to learn about. And I think he knows he flew off the handle a little bit. And, he said, they don't teach you these things at FAU, this media part of it, this negotiating part of it. They teach you how to play football. This stuff is all a little bit different. And he was coming into town anyhow. So Sam Hubbard's charity event is Thursday. So he was coming into town anyhow. It's not like he got that text and went and booked a flight and got up to Cincinnati to say his piece. But I don't think he was planning on talking to the media until he got that text from Zach Taylor. And I don't think he's doing himself any favors, but he just wants his side of the story out there. And it's obvious that he's paying attention to what we're writing, what you guys are saying, what fans are saying on social media. And he's taken a little bit of a hit, like, you're under contract, just honor it. And I think he wants to put his side out there that, hey, the Bengals are not negotiating in good faith.
One of the big hangups through this whole thing has been Trey Hendrickson saying that the Bengals promised him an extension if he sustained his level of play last offseason. We've also seen a big jump in the pay to top edge rushers over the last, say, 3 to 6 months or so. Trey Hendrickson said yesterday, "I'm not going to apologize for the rates being paid to top defensive ends in the National Football League." How much do you think that jump changed the Bengals' plans this offseason? And if it was more similar to the contract numbers last offseason, would Trey Hendrickson potentially be taken care of already?
I do think it changed their plans, and I think that's an indictment on the Bengals. They should have seen this coming. They just went through it a few years ago with safety and Jesse Bates getting all that money, and the safeties weren't getting paid that kind of money, and the market explodes. You see the receiver market explode. It's the salary cap just keeps going up. It's not just quarterbacks that are premium positions anymore, and edge rusher is probably it's right there with receiver as the next most premium position, and so the Bengals can't say they didn't see this coming. And I do think they told him that you play another year. So he signs a 4-year deal. He gets here. He has been wanting to renegotiate that deal for every offseason or make it longer. And then they finally acquiesced 2 years ago and give him a 1-year extension. And it's like, why sign that if you're wanting the long-term deal? And he said that was just a matter of, if I didn't do that, they just would have franchise tagged me anyhow. But I do believe that the Bengals, when they did that deal, that said, you keep playing at this level, I can't remember what his exact words, we'll take care of you, I think was the way he phrased it. And they think they are taking care of him. If their offer is in the 28, 30 million per year range, they're like, look, he's due 15.8 this year. That's almost 100% raise. They view that as taking care of a guy. Trey's not looking at it just through his own lens. He's looking at it through the whole position. You see Myles Garrett and these guys getting these huge amounts, and he doesn't want to. He's not like Jamar. He doesn't want to just be $1 higher than the next highest edge rusher. He just wants to be paid closer to his value, and they're just far apart on seeing what that value is.
Regardless of how ugly it gets this year, it is the last year of Trey Hendrickson's deal if an extension is not reached. The projected 2026 franchise tag for an edge rusher is $27 million. Do you think that's a route the Bengals could go after he plays out this contract? That next offseason would be one of the more tumultuous offseasons of all time, I would think, if they were to franchise tag Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah. Yesterday would look like a tea party if they do that. I mean, I could see them doing that. If they have leverage, they use it, and they even getting the Burrow deal done and getting the Chase deal and the Higgins, they're not proactive. They don't do things until they absolutely have to, and so I could see that being on the table. If it is, then I think there is a very real conversation about Trey sitting out games, and then again, with the franchise tag, that has to be placed. I can't remember what the deadline is, but it's early. It's March, first week of March, I think, right before free agency starts. So that could be a classic tag and trade scenario where you tag him. Everybody knows the relationship is strained. It's before the draft, and teams start flooding in with offers for Trey Hendrickson. And I could see that being a situation where they tag him and then they trade him to get some extra picks going into next year's draft.
Trey Hendrickson admitted yesterday that the team has been pushing for a short-term deal pretty hard. Zach Taylor texted him about the fines coming from the CBA if he were to hold out for mandatory training camp, which provoked the visit yesterday and the talking to the media. Doesn't that directly contradict Trey Hendrickson saying that there's been no communication from the Bengals front office to him in his camp?
Well, Zach doesn't count as front office, so that doesn't contradict. And I don't know, when exactly, because he was really non-committal when asked about when was the last time you exchanged numbers, when was the last time you talked, and he never really gave specifics on that. But he said it was pretty much a total night and day from pre-draft to post-draft. So it leads you to believe that it was during the pre-draft stuff when they were really leaning in to the short term, the 1-year deal, and they gave him the right to seek a trade. That didn't work out. But as far as he's concerned, or as far as he's saying, there's been no communication whatsoever since the draft. And I think that's why Zach texted him. I think that would be a really bad look. If the Bengals as an organization want to inform him that he will be fined if he skips minicamp, if they haven't talked to him since the draft when he's dying to talk to them to negotiate, and then someone from the front office pops in with a text about that, I think he takes that the way worse than he took it from Zach. And I think, Zach was probably careful in the way he presented that text and tried not to make it sound threatening. But I'm not sure it's so much a contradiction there as maybe a little bit of semantics and maybe just a little bit about the timing of when those communications broke down.
As soon as the Bengals drafted Shemar Stewart in the first round at pick 17, it was, if not the first question, the second or third in Zach Taylor's press conference asking, is this the Trey Hendrickson replacement? Does this have any kind of effect on the negotiations with Trey Hendrickson in this offseason? The Bengals said no, and then all of the communication we're hearing since is the talks between Hendrickson and the front office have broke down completely after the draft. Was Shemar Stewart the Trey Hendrickson replacement?
Yeah, long term. I mean, the Bengals don't want to sign Trey long term, and even if they do an extension, Shamar's a first round pick, so you're looking at 5 years almost guaranteed. The rookie deal's 4, and then you can do a 5th-year option, franchise tag after that. So he's in their plans for 4, 5, 6 years, and Trey Hendrickson, no matter how good he plays, is not in their plans. So long term, yeah. And you just look at it again, it's they already have all the leverage because Trey's under contract, and this just gives them even more leverage where, if Trey's threatening to sit out games and they go say they take a safety in the first round and nobody else is getting pressure on the quarterback, and Trey sits out and the defense looks like it did last year where there's no pressure, he starts gaining some leverage there and forces their hand to try to get something done and bring him back. Now you've got guys that they're hoping can, Miles Murphy, they're looking to take a step, and Shemar Stewart and these other guys. And if Trey does sit out and they're all of a sudden getting pressure and affecting the quarterback, it's another piece of leverage for them. So I don't think that's the reason they went. I do think that they went best player available in their mind. I know people argue about Shemar Stewart being the best player available at that time, but I don't think that pick was solely about Trey Hendrickson this year. It was definitely, as most first round picks are, a long-term look.
We got Jay Morrison, Bengals Talk, Sports Illustrated, covers your Bengals, obviously, giving us some time today, obviously heavy on the Trey questions. Earlier in the week when you and I spoke, you had mentioned that you had the Joe Burrow presser yesterday. Obviously, that didn't happen with the Trey Hendrickson stuff, because obviously yesterday he arrives at practice. 2 days ago is when the Adam Schefter and all the other reporting started coming out regarding the lack of communication between the front office and his side. Is moving Joe Burrow's presser, does that have anything to do with the Trey Hendrickson stuff that's come out the last couple of days?
I felt like it was an obvious domino because it was right after the Trey Hendrickson statement came out that the email came that Burrow wouldn't be talking. But I've been told that Burrow had a really long, he's doing this quarterback documentary, and he had a really long final interview with them on Monday, and he wanted to delay the Tuesday press conference till Wednesday, and he was informed that the media aren't here on Wednesday, so they just decided to push that to next week. So I was told it was not related. It certainly looks like it with the timing of it all, but it's not as though you push it back a week. He's still, the first questions next week are going to be about Trey Hendrickson regardless. So it's not like he's going to get away from this, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he has to say. He has stood on the table for Trey and said he said T is in need, and he said Trey is right there too. Jamar, T, they need to get these guys done. Does he take that same tack next week, or does he just kind of take a step back and say, I don't want to get involved in Trey's business? It's going to be really interesting to see how Joe approaches this next week.
Yeah, that's what I was fascinated about, because it's, Joe, especially at Media Row around Super Bowl time, was adamant about getting these guys paid and getting these guys taken care of. And obviously, Gesicki gets taken care of. Obviously, Jamar and T get taken care of. And Trey, we thought that, multiple times there's been reports coming out that they're close. And it's like, with how hard Joe Burrow fought in the media, if he just all of a sudden stops, it's not a bad thing, but it could be viewed as that, like, all right, you stopped going to bat for me. What's going on? I'm just curious to see if there's any drama that plays out as far as that. If he feels like, okay, my guy stopped going to bat for me in the media when he worked so hard for T and Jamar, that would be the next layer that I'd be keeping an eye on as far as that goes.
Yeah, Joe said something to Trey right before he came over to talk to us yesterday, and I would love to know what that was. It might have been a little joke, who knows? But it was everybody knew what was going on, and even once we came back in after everything was over, and a young Bengals cornerback passed me in the hallway going back to the media room. He's like, "What did Trey say to all you guys?" And that they want to know. They all want to know what's going on as well. And it's May. It's not a distraction at this point, but everybody's paying attention. And if this lingers into training camp, it very easily could become a distraction for this team that does not need distractions with the way they've started the season the last few years.
Perfect segue. Perfect segue. Yes. Let's talk about those slow starts. And I think everyone, a lot of people are very curious to see the schedule when it comes out for their respective teams. The Bengals, I think, probably have a fan base that I think is the most anxious to see what the first month of the season looks like because of those slow starts, as you mentioned, 1-3 starts the last 2 years. Obviously, they've been their biggest opponent during those stretches at times, but I do think who is laid out in front of them is going to obviously be huge for them this season. A lot of rumors, all the leaked schedules, all this, potentially playing Sunday Night Football at Buffalo week 1. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the schedule release. How do you feel about the schedule release that the NFL has turned into a big event on the calendar, of course, and how do you potentially see the schedule shaking out for the Bengals as far as any of the tea leaves that you've been able to read thus far?
I love the schedule release. I always have, even before I covered the league, and it's gone to a whole nother level now. But I've done it in the past. I don't have the time to do it today. I'm actually leaving for a little vacation tomorrow. But in the past, I've sat there and followed all the leaks and created a spreadsheet and be like, okay, if this game's happening here, it means the Bengals can't play that team this week. And you kind of piece it all together. And I've been able to get really close in the past. I think anytime you're looking at a schedule, you ideally want to play teams early that either have new head coaches or new quarterbacks or unsettled quarterback situations before they get all that settled. So Cleveland would be an ideal early opponent. They've got Jacksonville. You not only have a new head coach down there in Liam Cohen, but you have Travis Hunter coming in. He could set the world on fire, but maybe it's a little bit slow getting going. How much does he play DB? How much does he play wide receiver? Those kind of things, I think, is what you look for. Home and away, you look for too. It's obviously much better to open at home. That's not going to happen. The Bengals are going to be on the road because the Reds are home in week 1. They're not going to be at Buffalo in week 1. I know that for sure. But it looks like it's going to be road home, but that fourth week there's no conflict there that says it has to be home. So it could be road, home, road, and you get 3 of your first 4 on the road. That's a tough start for a team that has been struggling out of the gate. And then the other thing is the primetime games. They've really kind of got the short end of the stick from the league. They've since 2021, all 5 of their division primetime games have been on the road. All 5 of Baltimore's division primetime games have been at home. That's out of whack. The Browns and Steelers are both at 3-3. They've had an even split home and away. Those division primetime games are just brutal. The home teams win those way more than it's a much higher winning percentage than a regular division game when it's in prime time. So that's going to be a big thing to look for. How many primetime games, and do they finally get to play a division game in primetime at home, or are they going to have to go to Baltimore in November again? They've done it 2 years in a row on Thursday nights. 3 years in a row they've played in Baltimore in primetime.
We've come to expect a couple things when it comes to the Bengals. Obviously, we don't know when these teams are coming to visit Cincinnati, but we know the home opponents, and we can expect a stripe game and a whiteout game. Will the Bengals bring back the open and orange for their first home game this year? In I guess probably not week 1, but whenever that home opener is. And do you have any guesses for who that home opener will be?
I don't. They will. They are. That is the plan, that they're going to open in orange again, even though last year was a debacle. It'd be really funny if it was New England again, because New England is a home opponent this year. But yeah, no inkling there who it'll be. But again, you're hoping, and New England would be, even though the memory of last year is probably fresh. That's still a good team. They've got a new head coach, even though he's a vet. Mike Vrabel's coached in this league a long time, but he's new with this team, so that wouldn't be altogether that that bad, and I think they're going to be better, but they're not going to be a juggernaut. The White Tiger games, I think you're probably looking at whatever their first home primetime game is, whether it's a Sunday, a Thursday, or a Monday. That'll probably be a White Tiger game, and maybe another one on the road. I mean, another primetime one on the road somewhere. They initially like to just save those for home games, but more recently they've been wearing the White Tiger outfit on the road.
You mentioned that the Bengals have been kind of screwed by that home primetime games against the AFC North. Supposed to have one last year, was flexed out late into the season because of, I think it was the Browns and obviously the Bengals as well, not living up to expectations that year. Do you think the Bengals are given these primetime games right away tonight on the schedule release, or do you think they're giving a lot of those TBD slots late in the season like we saw last year with the Broncos that inevitably got shifted into that slot? How do you think the schedule looks tonight?
It's weird. It seems like week 3, week 4 is that spot. Was it 2 years in a row they played Monday Night Football in week 3? Commanders last year, Rams before that. And then for a long time, it was the week 4 Thursday night game. They had Miami on a week 4 Thursday night game. They had Jacksonville on a week 4 Thursday night game. So I think that's where you're looking, is week 3 or week 4 will probably be their first primetime game. And then does Joe Burrow get his wish? He said it would be really cool to play on a holiday, and there's a chance to play on Thanksgiving. It would have to be in prime time because they don't play the Lions or the Cowboys this year. Or there's Christmas games this year as well, and that could be in play. But yeah, I feel like that first month of the season they're going to have a primetime game, and it's probably going to be week 3 or week 4.
All right, good stuff. Jay Morrison, Sports Illustrated BengalsTalk.com, covers your Bengals, now covers our Bengals. Jay, a lot's changed since I've seen you last.
What happened?
I'm a Bengals fan now. Apparently, there was a show back in October, and I didn't think the Browns had a chance of getting Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur was the guy that everyone was saying was going to be the 1 or 2 off the board, quarterback-wise. I said if Cleveland drafted Shedeur Sanders, I would give up on Cleveland. I would become a Bengals fan. I'd be who they ended up with everybody. Well, some listeners found it and re-aired it, so now I'm a Bengals fan. I have to be a man of my word. So,
you should have said if they draft him in the first round.
Yeah, he didn't, though. Yeah. He didn't.
I know.
It's small print. The details are very important. Jay, you're the man. I appreciate it. Enjoy your vacation.
All right, thanks. Good talking to you guys.
All right, good stuff. Jay Morrison, awesome enough to give us some time. Lots to unpack there. We'll step away for a few moments. More off the bench when we return. All right, and we're back off the bench. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett. Elliot, you were out on that one. We'll tag you in. Biggest takeaway from Jay's perspective covering the media scrum yesterday. I guess, one thing I not fell for, but the way the clips were presented throughout social media yesterday, I thought he had said initially he would sit out this upcoming season under this current deal, but then would not answer questions about missing games. But it was actually the opposite. He He was asked missing games first, avoided that answer, and then later said he refused to play under the current deal. Bottom line is, as Jay said, what else is he supposed to say? But was there anything else that stood out to you regarding his perspective from the Trey Hendrickson situation?
Jay saying that was one of the more, I would say, unique experiences in his time covering the Cincinnati Bengals, I think goes to show that this situation here isn't like a normal thing. I know there are teams out there that deal with restructuring these contracts. You saw it in Kansas City. We've seen it where players want more money and the team's kind of holding out. But I don't know if we've seen one like this where it's the player came off or is signed a contract extension, had years, and then immediately started complaining about it and continues to complain about it, and the team didn't really do anything to help the situation. And now you still sit here all these years later and nothing's been resolved, nothing's been fixed. And there's really no way around it other than the fact that Trey Hendrickson has zero leverage. Zero. You brought up the Hunter Green situation. I don't think those are anything close. If Hunter Green wants more money, the Reds are going to be hand-tied. They're going to look absolutely terrible. I stand by that the Bengals don't look terrible here. I don't think they do. You can be frustrated with the Cincinnati Bengals about a lot of different things. I don't think this specific situation can be one of them. They've offered him more money. Jay said in that interview, they've offered him double his money. Like from their standpoint, from their perspective, they're doing everything that they want to do. They're doing everything for him. It's just in Trey's eyes, he wants the world. And from his point, you don't get the world. You just don't. You were the best defensive player on the worst defensive team in the NFL. It doesn't boost your resume. You asked for a trade, nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to trade you or trade for you. Not at the price where the Bengals were comfortable doing it. So you continue this down the stretch, and you're just out of options. And you want to sit here and say that you don't want to play next year, that's fine. If you're not going to play under the contract, I wish you well. But Jacob said it too. Ja'Marr Chase bet on himself, and it worked. Trey Hendrickson has two routes here. He can pout, which God knows I've used that method a time or two. Or he can bet on himself this regular season and say, I'm going to be better than I was before, and I'm going to see who else wants me out there. Now, Jacob asked an interesting question, which I think that if it happens, I actually don't even – Jay said it was a possibility that it would happen. The Bengals franchise tagging him after not getting anything done here would be crazy.
They would tag and trade him.
Yeah, correct.
I'm pulling for it. I kind of want to see.
It would be insanity. So this for everything that it's worth, this is going to be the last season most likely you're going to see of Trey Hendrickson. It seems to me like he's trying to find ways out. He took a Zach Taylor text that essentially, I mean, Kinner kind of made the joke 2 segments ago, but it's a text that means nothing. I mean, it's like, hey, bud, like in a month you might want to show up or else we're going to have to start finding you. Like that's what that was. And he took it like, oh, well, this is a personal shot. This is a grievance. This is terrible. That's not what this is. Nobody's out to get you, man. I understand that you want more money. You deserve more money. You should have probably been Defensive Player of the Year last season. If the team went to the playoffs, you probably would have been. Saying all that, you signed the contract. You're under contract. You're a Cincinnati Bengal right now. And right now you're making yourself look bad. You're making yourself look bad for the Bengals. And you're making yourself look bad, in my opinion, for any team that possibly wants to negotiate with you in the future. Who wants to give you a 3-year deal and have you walk it back every single season following? Nobody. So that's my biggest takeaway. I think this situation is so unique and so different from others because it feels like both sides are in their own universes, not even remotely playing the same sport is what it feels like to me. And the longer this goes, the more distracted this team gets and the less focused we are on the beginning of the season, which, as you said, has been the Bengals' kryptonite for the better part of Zach Taylor's entire career as head coach of the Bengals. So I'm hoping there's a resolve to this. I am. But I imagine it's not going to be what Trey Hendrickson wants, and it's probably not going to be what the Bengals want either. This is going to be a lose-lose situation. All I can hope for is that he plays well enough during the regular season. That's all I can hope for. You're under contract, play the contract, and see what you can do next season. I hope the Green Bay Packers pay you $1 billion. I hope the Washington Commanders pay you 10 years, $200 trillion. I hope that happens for you because it gives the Bengals a better chance to win this season.
Also gives them a better comp pick.
Yeah. So I mean that's my takeaway from all this. And by the way, it's great for us. It's great content because the longer this nonsense goes, is more talking points for us. But I don't think the Bengals look bad, and I stand by that. I don't think the Bengals look bad during this.
Yeah, people keep pointing to, cutting Alex Kappa with a year left on his deal, restructuring Geno Stone's contract when you promised him a certain amount of money. And they say, well, why isn't it a two-way street? If Trey Hendrickson outperforms his contract, why can't he just ask for more money too? I don't know if this is breaking news. The teams are in charge, and the teams run the contracts. And if the team doesn't think you're good enough anymore, they can cut you because the contract structure that you signed did not guarantee you any money.
Yep.
That's following the contract that the players negotiated. And also, if the Bengals go to Geno Stone and say, take a pay cut, he can say no.
Yep.
Trey Hendrickson goes to the Bengals front office and says, gives me a $10 million raise. Why can't they say no?
Yeah.
They have to cave to every ask that every player wants. That's what good franchises do? I'm supposed to think those are the same thing? No, I'm just not buying it.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because Trey brought that up in the presser yesterday. Like, if I only was getting 7 or 8 sacks, they would, they would come to me and ask me, to take less. They did it with Geno Stone, but the reason that they could do that is because they're contractually able to. Because you assigned a contract that said it's okay for them to do that. Same thing with Geno Stone. I caught myself last week saying, I'm not a big Geno Stone backer, but I thought it was kind of weird. They went to him to ask him to shave money off the deal, and it's okay if you're using that money to sign somebody else. But I felt bad for him because I wouldn't have agreed to it unless there's an actual plan for that money. But they don't have to tell him what the plan for the money is. They don't have to tell him anything because it's like Jake said, you either take that pay cut or they're going to cut you. Oh, the Bengals are mean. I don't feel bad for Geno Stone because when you really think about it, you allowed that opportunity. Correct. You allowed that option to present itself by not putting in the contract that you can't do that. And, the Bengals would never have agreed to it. Then don't play for the Bengals. Then go play elsewhere. We're not saying that the Bengals handle everything correctly. There's a lot of weird stuff that they do. But you know that when you sign with the Bengals, so you need to make sure that you have an agent that is going to have that contract as buttoned up as absolutely possible. And he left too many holes in there. So when they say that the Bengals can come and take money away from you, well, then you should have found some clause in your contract to keep them from doing that because they're only doing what they're contractually able to do. And there you go. Contractually, they don't have to give you more money because you didn't put it in the contract that, hey, if I outperform this pay grade, I need to get this amount of dollars. You didn't do that. So that's on you. That's not on them. As far as
and by the way, just so we're all clear, and we've said it before, and we'll say it until early September when the season starts. Trey Hendrickson's going to play. He's going to wear a jersey. He's
for
going
the Bengals.
He's going to put on pads. He's going to put on an orange helmet, and he is going to play a majority of the games. I don't know. I just looked it up. How many players have sat out for the entire season? For contract dispute purposes, the entire season. And what I've found here, and I could be wrong, obviously, it's Le'Veon Bell in 2018. Surely that worked for him, right?
Correct.
You have Eric Dickerson in 1990. Sat out the entire 1990 season with the Rams, which ended his career.
That was also pre-CBA where there were fines and stuff for training camps.
So this is
it's only happened once.
This is Trey Hendrickson trying to threaten something that nobody's done before. And I think he's a very, very good player.
Yeah.
But this isn't I'm trying to this isn't J.J. Watt. I'm trying to think of elite Hall of Fame level players, that maybe could possibly.
This isn't Myles Garrett.
Yeah,
this isn't Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
this isn't Max Crosby.
We think he is because yes, he gets the sack numbers and he's a very good player. He's a very good football player, but he's not the best. He's not the best. He does not have the leverage that he thinks he does. I wish him well. I want him to like it here. I want him to be happy. I just wish that once you sign a contract, you don't walk back on it every 5 seconds.
That's right, and I think that's why a lot of the stuff that's happened through this offseason and the split around the fan base. I think that's why so many of the fans are not on Trey Hendrickson's side anymore. We've seen this dance, offseason after offseason. How does that? How are we supposed to believe you that we give you a 3-year deal, you're not going to do this after next year and after the year after?
Yeah.
What's the incentive for the Bengals to give you a 3-year deal? Because you're on a 3-year deal right now, and you've done it the last 2 offseasons.
Yeah.
Casey, I want to bring you in too because I want to get all your guys' thoughts on this. Joe Burrow went above and beyond to fight hard in the media to get these deals done. I'm not stirring the pot here. I guess I'm curious. Does he have an obligation to finish that fight in the media for Trey Hendrickson? Does he have a responsibility because he went out on that limb for all of these guys? Is it, well, that was his effort and he doesn't have anything else to do moving forward with this? How do you think Joe Burrow is going to handle this in the media, and does he need to address it in the media? Does he need to go to bat for Trey? Because he started this, fighting for him and all the guys at Super Bowl press row. Shemar T get taken care of. Obviously, Gesicki gets taken care of. Look, what's Joe Burrow's role in this? Does he have a role in this? Does he have a responsibility to maybe readdress this in the media the way he fought so hard for those other guys? Because if T or Shemar is not taken care of, Joe would be questioned or feel like he's obligated to say something on behalf of them. Does he share that same responsibility for Trey, in your guys' opinion?
Well, I mean, in those same media row tour that he went on, he also mentioned Trey. I feel like he's done his part. He hasn't spoke since. He didn't really speak on Shemar and T's behalf after that media row. So I think he's fine. I don't think there's – and there would be no responsibility anyways.
He also won, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, he got 3 out of the 4.
It's over. He won.
Yeah, I mean, he got what he wanted ultimately. I mean, they are still actively working on something, or they've been negotiating, and the door's not closed on negotiating with Trey. So I don't think Joe needs to – he's going to have to probably say something because he's going to be asked. But I don't think it's a obligation for him to make a stance on the situation saying, like, hey, it needs to be resolved. I don't think he needs to do any of that. I think he's going to leave it to Trey and his camp to handle his business and move forward. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would like Joe Burrow, if he wants to say something, if he feels like he's obligated to, then go ahead. I don't think there's anything wrong with that side either. I don't think Joe can go wrong either way. I just, he is the vocal leader of the team. And I just don't see how him not saying anything or saying something will affect that regardless. The guys in the locker room love Joe. And I think that it won't matter one way or the other if he says something or not.
Yeah, and not to mention, I think Casey's right, and it won't matter. But Joe Burrow probably would have said something before yesterday's events. Yesterday's events felt like an attack on the Bengals more than anything. I know he's kind of been doing it, and there's been no communication. But yesterday he was talking about personal shots with the coaching staff, feeling hurt and personally victimized by the Bengals. We've crossed over into a world where I think Joe Burrow now would be outside of his depth if he were to be like, you know what, Trey's right. Zach Taylor shouldn't have texted him and started saying all that. I think that we're outside of the realm of being able to try to talk the Bengals into doing this. This is now a cage match essentially between the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson and who's going to fold first. And it's not going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. They have a pair of aces, and to be quite honest, they're not interested in anything that Trey has to say or do. And that goes probably with Joe Burrow right now. They listen to Joe Burrow because they had to, right? They don't have to listen to Joe Burrow for this because I don't think it's remotely the same thing. This is a very, very different situation from Shemar and T. Shemar and T both wanted to come back, and I don't think it ever crossed the line of being personal with the organization. I don't believe it ever did that. This has crossed that line, and I think Joe Burrow would be outside of his depth if he were to vouch for him against the Bengals on this.
See a lot of people saying about Trey Hendrickson potentially leaving the Bengals as well. He's shown no decline over the last 2 years. Why would you point to his age? Why would you point to all these decline metrics if Trey Hendrickson is showing so far that he's an outlier to that?
Yeah.
If you wait for Trey Hendrickson to decline, you've waited too long.
Yeah.
Move on from him when he's at his peak. What should the Bengals have done? They should have traded him for a draft pick that wasn't 2 firsts or whatever they were waiting on. You can't predict the future, but you can look at the past and you can make a pretty damn good educated guess.
Yep.
And that educated guess tells you 34-year-old edge rushers are not worth $30+ million, especially for a team that has to hit value signings on defense. You have invested in having one of the best offenses in football. You cannot afford to have $30+ million sucked up in Trey Hendrickson and have him not be a defensive player of the year. And there is almost every plot point in the history of the NFL pointing to a 3 or 4 year extension. He will not be an elite edge rusher at the end of that deal. And I'm more comfortable betting on that than betting on him to be a once-in-a-lifetime outlier.
All right, we'll step away for a few. We'll react. We'll close out our Bengals conversation, and then all Pete Rose, all Reds to close it out. More off the bench when we come back. All right, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here off the bench. Shout out to Jay Morrison, Sports Illustrated, Bengals Talk, giving us some time a little bit ago. Of course, full reaction to the Trey Hendrickson presser yesterday at practice, an unexpected presser, if you will. It wasn't an organized presser. I mean, that was just all media there just to cover practice. We knew it was going to be we thought it was going to be a quiet off season with that kind of lingering in the background, but that is obviously, definitely been a shadow over the Bengals already here in the offseason. And every time you think it's about to die down and kind of forget about it, and that's why he's playing this correct. He has to create chaos to keep that, court of public pressure, if you will, to keep kind of pushing the Bengals to get something done. But we talked about that with Jay. If you missed it, it'll be up Chatterbox's YouTube channel again on the video section, so go and check that out later. One thing we also talked about, of course, was the schedule release. A lot of leaks, if you will, don't know what's real, what's not. Some have shown that the Bengals will be playing at Buffalo Sunday Night Football Week 1. Thought it was interesting. Jay was adamant. He said I meant to ask him how he knew that or why he would know that, but he was pretty adamant. Bengals-Bills will not be a Week 1 matchup.
Yeah, we just got another leak from a different account that the Ravens will be opening Week 1 in Buffalo again. Okay. None of that will be confirmed till later tonight, but that goes kind of with what Jay was saying there. It doesn't look like it'll be the Bengals. Something else that friend of the program, Drew Garrison, pointed out on Twitter is the Reds are home in Week 1 and the Pittsburgh Pirates are at home in Week 1. The Ravens, obviously, now if that leak is true, playing in Buffalo, that would lead me to believe the Bengals open in Cleveland.
No.
If you connect all three of those dots.
Yeah.
So potentially Kinner doesn't waste any time to return to his old stomping ground.
It's going to be the Joe Bowl Because
right.
I'm pretty confident Flacco will be the quarterback week 1 for Cleveland. It's just, the back end matchup between
we
those
could do
two.
we got a lot of great matchups. I mean, obviously the marquee matchup would be if you got a Sanders Burrow matchup in week 1, Joe versus Joe, Flacco versus Burrow. You got the two smallest hands in the league, Pickett and Joe. One of those quarterbacks good, one of those quarterbacks not. So yeah, Dylan Gabriel short. I think that's about it. Yeah,
That's it.
It happens. I'm Team Gabriel when it comes to defending the height.
I'm team the reporter that stood on stage and said that he's taller than Dylan Gabriel. That's whose team I'm on.
That's a low blow. Yeah, they put a picture yesterday of all 4 quarterbacks standing side by side. Didn't realize Joe Flacco was so damn
he's
big.
A monster.
Yeah, I did not realize that. You just see him, he just doesn't look very athletic. All this, he doesn't. But Sanders, who isn't the smallest quarterback, he's not the biggest either, but he made Sanders look pretty small. And then there's Dylan Gabriel and Pickett. I mean, Gabriel. I mean, I've been there. I've been there. My height being highlighted in a picture next to normal sized people. It's not fun. It's not fun. Now the schedule release comes out later tonight. Jay just brought up some interesting nuggets. I didn't even think about looking at and you talked about Garrison, highlighting it on Twitter as well. Just taking a look at these NFL teams who also have MLB teams and who's home and who's away those weekends and all that stuff. So that obviously plays a role in it. Bottom line is, I know I said it matters who the Bengals played to help them get off to a slow, a hot start, to put the last 2 years behind them. But the bottom line is, we've seen them play tough schedules. We've seen them play light schedules. I'm going against what I've said. I actually don't think it matters. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is not who the Bengals play. It's which Bengals team shows up. Who are the Bengals going to be in September? Because honestly, if the Bengals team that existed in the last month of last season in December, if that Bengals team was the same team that started September, they don't lose to the Chiefs. They definitely don't lose to the Patriots. They don't lose to Baltimore. You know what I mean? It's a significantly different start. It really does not matter who the Bengals play the first month of the season. I think it just strictly comes down to, what have you not done in seasons past to be prepared for September? And are you going to do anything different this season? So far, the only distraction looming is Trey Hendrickson. But I feel like this team's been battle tested enough. I think they know what they need to do. Joe Burrow's healthy, knock on wood, and everyone stays healthy through camp. I really, as much as I want to make a big deal about who the Bengals play in September, I really don't think it matters, because as we've seen, tough teams, bad teams, it doesn't matter. When the Bengals don't show up ready to play, they lose. It just matters who shows up in September on behalf of the Bengals at this point.
100%. You're right. And that's kind of why, if we go full circle back to that Trey conversation, I have zero problem with Zach Taylor sending that text. It's a head coach who recognizes the main problem with this franchise over his tenure here has been starting slow. So he's sitting here in May thinking about how he's going to handle OTAs and training camp to try to fix that. And one of the best players on the side of the ball with the most questions about it is currently not here, so he's addressing that issue as he plans for the offseason. Yeah, I think that's perfect news, and I like to, I think the way they talk about it in every single interview they have, both the front office and Zach Taylor, about how they have to start fast this year, I think they know it, but I think they knew it last year too, and it still didn't result in wins. So hopefully that changes this year. I do think last year when we, reacted live and went through that in real time, it was a lot more painful than it is looking back on it. Obviously that Patriots game is a nightmare, but losing to the Commanders in week 3 does not feel the same now as it did that night.
No, not at all. And that goes, in my opinion, the same with the Kansas City Chiefs loss. The Patriots week 1 game was inexcusable.
And it's magnified by the fact that we missed the playoffs by half a game.
By that game.
Exactly.
So that's the one outlier. And like the Bengals in that Chiefs game, they played well. I mean, I would say you dominated 80% of it. The Commanders game, the defense was terrible. Offense, did as well as they could possibly do. If I were Zach Taylor, and of course there's going to be pressure on week 1, there just has to be. I don't know what the right answer is, because the correct answer, despite what everybody says, it's not to just give these guys unlimited snaps in the preseason. That's just not what the answer is. That's not the correct answer, because they've given them snaps and it just doesn't work. Because I don't think the preseason matters. It matters for the offensive line. It matters for the offensive line. It matters for getting a feel for the game. But it does not matter for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow. I firmly believe that. Anything they do in a preseason game, it would be done at a practice. There's other things that other positions can do out in the field, communication wise, rhythm wise, that would make it work. Was that a whistle? And I think that if you're the Bengals and Zach Taylor, The only thing that has been a constant throughout the past, I don't know how many off seasons now, is that there's been some sort of distraction, some sort of injury, some sort of something heading into the season. Always. It's never been clean. They have to try to be clean heading into this season. This Trey Hendrickson nonsense has to be somewhat resolved by the start of this season. It's the only constant that's been a problem for the Bengals heading into these seasons. There's just been issues. We need a 100% clean slate heading into the season, fresh start, and hopefully that's good enough. Because it is something to worry about. I mean, you can't. Zach Taylor is what? He has one win in week 1 during his time as a Bengals head coach. That's not good enough. Joe Burrow has not looked good in week 1 during his career as a Bengals quarterback, though some of it might be skewed via the team not being good when he first started or being injured as of recently. But you have to try, man. You have to try to limit as many distractions as possible, and hopefully that's the answer. Because I'm with you, Kenner. I do not think it matters who they play in week 1. They could play the worst team in the league or the best team in the league. Because in years prior, they just haven't been ready for that game, no matter who they played. They lost. I remember them losing to the Cowboys and who was it? Cooper Rush.
Yeah, week 2.
And it's like there have been games in the past where it's clear, like the Titans game. Remember that Titans game? The Bengals went down and scored a field goal, and then I think didn't score for the rest of that game.
No, I think it was 27-3, 24-3.
Early on, and I just remember these games where it's clear that something's wrong. Like I don't know what you point at. I don't know what to do. The only thing I can try to think of is limit these distractions, and hopefully that answers this problem.
All right, good stuff. Schedule comes out tonight. You guys will be all over it tomorrow. I'll be out tomorrow. You guys will be reacting, of course, to the schedule reveal. Everyone will be keeping an eye on that tonight. Do we have any Chatterbox coverage of the schedule reveal tonight?
We do. We will have Chatterbox Bengals schedule reveal breakdown as soon as my little fingers can get it up. So we'll work on that for you later tonight. We did have a little preview and Trey conversation dropped on YouTube this morning, so go check that out if you haven't watched it yet. We did just get one more leak about the Bengals schedule, and it's the only thing I care about. I don't care about what weeks they land in. I just care that we finally get an AFC North primetime game at home, and it seems like we will. Steelers at Bengals Week 7 Thursday Night Football has been leaked as a primetime game.
Okay.
Thursday Night Football, you're going to have a big one. Joe Burrow and the Bengals welcoming in Mason Rudolph and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Can't wait.
That will be big. That was an all-time radio voice.
That was a good Justin radio voice there.
Or Aaron Rodgers. We could have Aaron Rodgers at Paycor.
I don't think so, right?
Oh, I think we'll find out tonight.
Okay.
I mean, if they end up with 2 primetime games, every team gets a Thursday Night Football game, so that doesn't tell us anything. But
you don't put Mason Rudolph in primetime, right? They have to have an inkling that
they have to have one. They have to play on Thursday Night Football. So
Thursday night's the throwaway
This
game.
one doesn't matter technically, but if the Steelers have more than 3 primetime games this year, then the NFL is 100% sure that Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't make the risk. I'm very confident in that.
All right, tonight, Pete Rose night at Great American Ballpark, and Pete Rose is, well, a lot of people are talking about Pete Rose, and it's not all just because of Pete Rose night at the ballpark. Major League Baseball, all of a sudden, no longer morally outraged about betting on baseball. I mean, just out of the blue, Rob Manfred and baseball, they're just completely fine with Pete Rose's past, and welcome back, Hit King. Pete Rose reinstated by Major League Baseball. What does that mean for his future as far as the Hall of Fame is concerned? We'll talk about that when we come back. More Off the Bench next. Pete Rose reinstated by Major League Baseball. How about that? That came out yesterday. I thought that would have been cool if that was announced today, just to kind of tie in with Pete Rose night. But nonetheless, it's still butting up pretty close to it. I know Marty Brenneman was doing a lot of media hits reacting to it. I mean, that was one of his closest friends. And Marty will be at Great American Ballpark tonight, by the way, emceeing the live Q&A session with some of Pete's closest friends, Reds Hall of Famers, and that'll be at 6:30 at the ballpark. 7:14 is the first pitch. I hate when baseball does that. I see 6:07 first pitches. I see 7:12 first pitch. 7:14 tonight. I don't know why. I'm OCD. Just put it at the 15, the 10 or the 15 or the 20, but that's not why we're doing this show today. Big night at the ballpark honoring Pete Rose, of course, who passed away last year, and the Reds wanted to do something to commemorate the Hit King and what he meant to the organization, and tying it into 5/14 just made too much sense. Pete Rose night at the ballpark tonight. Commemorative jersey is going to be given out to everyone in attendance, but that's what a lot of people are excited for who are going to the game. But what a lot of people are talking about is the news that broke yesterday, Rob Manfred lifting the ban on Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and others. Obviously, Pete, the big name we're going to talk about here today. I reacted to it live on my show yesterday, and I said, look, I'm conflicted on this because I do want to see Pete get in the Hall of Fame. But I also find it very gross of Major League Baseball to pretend that this entire time that Pete has been banned from the sport, that it's been because of their moral outrage for what he did betting on baseball. And here we are, not even a calendar year removed from the passing of the Hit King, and now all of a sudden baseball is just like, yeah, I wish he wouldn't have done that. What the hell? We'll lift the ban. That's so messed up. I would have respected baseball more, honestly. And I know people want to make an argument about, well, it's a lifetime ban. With Pete passing, he's no longer living, so therefore he served his lifetime ban. I understand that. I think baseball looks horrible for this. I think that they look way worse than if they would have just stuck to their guns and said, you know what? We're not going to lift the ban on Pete Rose. We just feel very adamant about betting on baseball, and no matter what, no matter all the relationships we have with DraftKings and FanDuel and everything else, there was a rule, you broke it, and that was a part of the baseball's pastime. You will not break that rule. We're going to stick to it. I think it's so disrespectful that for Pete's entire life post-baseball that you pretended to be morally outraged by this. You pretended that there's just no way we can overlook those mistakes that Pete made. And then here we are months after his passing. Baseball's like, F it. We'll lift the ban. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Give me a break. I think baseball looks horrible. I would have respected them way more had they just stuck to their guns and kept him out of baseball. I think doing it now is disrespectful. I feel like it was personal. I feel like this was done on purpose, knowing how much it would mean to Pete Rose and his family that they waited till he died to decide to lift this. I have a huge problem with it. I'm conflicted. I'm happy for him at the same time and his family. I hope that it leads to a Hall of Fame induction, which couldn't happen for another few years, unfortunately. But at the same time, I'm pissed because baseball looks really bad here. You're petty. You did this on purpose. You waited for him to die before doing something that you know would have made him very, very happy. Right. You didn't care about betting on baseball. You just pretended, and that's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, at least they're consistent with their lifetime bans. They reinstated Shoeless Joe Jackson right after he died. No, they reinstated him yesterday. He died in December of 1951.
Yeah.
So not quite. Yeah, this is a Pete Rose thing. This is one last effort for them to twist the knife and then to put him on the classic era bracket that they can't, or ballot that they won't vote on for another 2 years and hardly anyone ever gets in off of. Is just another way to say, well, he's eligible, but I'll almost guarantee you he never gets in. It's a shame. He should be a shoo-in. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, if he's going to get in the Hall of Fame, then you should put that he was gambling and had a suspension on his plaque.
Yeah.
Sure, that's fine. Also put that he had the most hits of anyone ever on the plaque because it's the Baseball Hall of Fame and it's for baseball players. Like, I can't understand why you would want to have a Hall of Fame that willingly excludes the best players of the game. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, this was absolutely a personal attack. I mean, if you want to call it an attack, but it was the whole fight between Pete and Major League Baseball was personal. And Rob Manfred, I think this was always going to happen. Pete knew it was always going to happen. I'm pretty sure there's an interview I saw yesterday. I think Big C, a Chatterbox guy, he tweeted out the interview. I think it was a couple years ago where Pete said, "What's going to happen is I'm going to die, and they're going to allow me to be eligible. But I don't. What's that do for me? I want to celebrate it with my family." And now obviously they can't do that. So this was a shot by the final shot that Major League Baseball could have given them is immediately. They could have at least. I think they could have waited a little bit. Obviously, they wanted to do it before tonight's event.
Manfred will be here, right?
Oh, we'll see.
I think so.
You think he'll be
He's
here?
throwing out
so.
the first pitch. He's throwing out the first pitch. You know.
Is he? I listen. If Rob Manfred thought that this was gonna do anything, I don't think that that's probably the way to go. And Reed put it in the chat, and it's right. It's accurate. He broke the cardinal rule of baseball. It was a rule that everybody knew. It was a rule that was famously done by those Chicago Black Sox players.
Then don't lift it. Then don't lift it.
I agree. I 1,000,000% agree that this shouldn't have been lifted. Because I think it's hypocritical. I think it looks petty, and it looks personal. I think they were concerned about what would have happened if Pete Rose got to the Hall of Fame speech and started making fun of or bashing on Major League Baseball. I thought that I bet a lot of that came into play, and it's a shame. Manfred, so he announced yesterday the league's policy on permanent ineligibility, saying bans would expire at death. MLB said 17 individuals had their status changed by the decision. All 8 banned players of the 1919 Chicago Black Sox, former Philadelphia Phillies president Williams D. Cox, and former New York Giants outfielder Benny Koff. So 17 players affected by this decision, which I think they would just have to call the Pete Rose rule, where it's just we wanted to get one final shot at him before his big ceremony at Great American Ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jake, you brought up a great point as well. Shoeless Joe Jackson, dying in the 50s, you said? I mean, why now all of a sudden? Because Rob Manfred, by the way, yesterday did say that people started challenging this rule by bringing up the fact that, well, if they've passed away, haven't they served their life sentence when it comes to the lifetime ban? And he goes, I guess I've never really thought of it like that. The hell you haven't. Stop it. It's not coincidental that of all the guys that have been blackballed from Major League Baseball, that have been kept out, that have been banned, that Pete Rose passes away, and then all of a sudden the light comes on and you decide that, oh, yeah, the lifetime ban. Yeah, I never thought of it like that. Yeah, let's let everyone back in. Stop. Like I said, it is what it is. Reed's right. I mean, everyone knows it. I mean, I don't feel bad for players who juice, get caught, and get suspended. That's why last year, Elliott, we were making fun of the Noelvi Marte situation because we don't feel bad for you. You guys know what's up. You know what's going to come when you make these mistakes. So we look at it as, yeah, you made a bad decision. It's bad leadership. You're being a bad teammate, a bad player. You're letting everybody down. Pete Rose let everybody down with that. But if it was as big a deal as baseball said, then don't reverse it. Don't lift the ban. Stick to your guns. And they didn't, and I think it's hypocritical, and we don't need to repeat everything again, but that's where I stand with that. But yes, he's right. He broke the rule, is what it is at this point.
Do you think they'll air the Hall of Fame induction for Pete Rose on FanDuel Sports Network? Or maybe on MGM TV? Yeah. DraftKings?
I do like that bit.
DraftKings Live?
I think that is just an ironic bit. That's all that it is.
Whoever speaks it is
the Reds will absolutely post a graphic about tonight's game with a FanDuel logo on it.
Yeah.
About Pete Rose night.
Yep.
That Pete Rose memory brought to you by FanDuel. All this stuff.
Yeah.
There's the other thing too, whoever speaks at the Hall of Fame ceremony, over under on the length of the speech. There's a lot of things that we could tie into that when it comes. Marty, we'll have to get Marty on later the week, next week, to kind of weigh in. He laid it out yesterday in a few news hits that he did. There's a lot that, he wouldn't be eligible for the Hall of Fame for another couple years. And then it's a year after you're announced that you're getting in, a year before the actual ceremony. It could be years before we even get to that point. And will he even get, that's the other thing too. Does he get in? Will the writers still allow him to get in?
No. I would be shocked.
Yeah. If they weren't gonna fold on juicing, I don't think they'll fold on this. And by the way, they should absolutely open up the juicing thing. If you're gonna walk back on precedent, then you got to walk back on that one too, in my opinion.
Cooperstown's cool, so it's not like the Basketball Hall of Fame that's in a strip mall. But can we just start another one?
Yeah.
Be like, these guys stink and they don't respect baseball.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put the good players in this Hall of Fame because none of them are in that Hall of Fame.
And that's the other part too. It's the Baseball Hall of Fame, and Jacob said it earlier, but it's for what he did on the baseball field. We're not giving him the president.
I'm not giving him a humanitarian award.
Yeah, we're not giving
I
him
want a plaque in the Baseball Hall of Fame for the guy that has the most hits ever. Doesn't seem like a crazy ask.
Yeah.
For baseball.
And put the other stuff on it if you want to. Put that he gambled. Put that he was suspended forever. And then just at the bottom, put that he had a whole hell of a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Or don't. Just the damn plaque honoring what he did in the sport with the bat in his hand on the field.
Yeah. Or keep him suspended. But if you're going to reinstate him, then he needs to go to the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Reinstating him to then vote on it in 2 years and keep him out of the Hall of Fame is nonsense.
All right, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rurring, Jacob Tissett. Last thing on the way out, Reds, White Sox, Game 2 tonight. It is Pete Rose night at the ballpark. Gates open at 5:45. Keep that in mind. I've been told from the Reds to keep relaying that information. Gates open at 5:45. Everyone in attendance gets a Pete Rose commemorative jersey. All jerseys will be the size extra large. If you're not an extra large, don't worry about it. They're going to have multiple tables that you can exchange these jerseys to get a medium or a 2XL or whatever size you need. You can exchange those throughout the ballpark, so keep that in mind. Get there early. Lines will be long, all of that, expecting a big crowd on hand. With that being said, send us out with this. Big crowd on hand. Pete Rose night. Marty Brenneman emceeing the Q&A before. Pete Rose's family going to be in attendance. It's a big deal. He was just reinstated into baseball yesterday. I can't think of one better way for the Reds to truly commemorate the life and memories of Pete Rose than to send him give him a win tonight. Do the Reds pull that off? Nick Lodolo's on the mound. Offense stinks as usual. Does the offense muster up enough runs tonight? How do we see this game going tonight? Do the Reds get a win on Pete Rose night?
You know what? I think so, and I think it's going to be pretty significant. 13-14 to 1 or 2, probably, and then they turn around and lose tomorrow pretty convincingly and choke the series.
That's a fair point.
They'll definitely win tonight, but we just, sadly, since they lost Game 1, we know they won't win the series.
I will actually go with the White Sox
here. Plus 200 on the money line.
And I'll take them 1-0. Because, I mean, again, this wasn't just the Pete Rose getting freed from this punishment. It was the Chicago Black Sox as well.
It's also Shoeless Joe Jackson night.
So this is Shoeless Joe Jackson night as well. So I'm going to take 1-0 White Sox.
Fair enough. But you know how baseball works. Like, this final score will equal 14 at the end of the night. Like, it's always, there's always going to be that weird thing to tie it in somehow. But will the Reds score more than a run? That's the question.
No,
all right, guys, appreciate you. Yeah. Shout out to Jay Morrison. Appreciate him giving us time. But we'll do this again tomorrow. Or you guys will. Full reaction to the schedule release later on tonight. But until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rurring, and Jacob Tissett.
I feel like nothing gets the city of Cincinnati more riled up than anything that has to do with Pete Rose.
Yeah, no, you're right. We love him an awful lot.
Half of us do. I think
way more than half.
Okay, that's a fair point.
I would say 90.
A lot of my timeline was not talking about the positives of old Pete yesterday, but it gets everybody fired up. I disagree with Major League Baseball's decision to do what they did yesterday, but I guess if they wanted to do it because your guy Donnie Trump sent in the call, then maybe that's what he did. Honest to God, I don't know the reason as to why.
Now we got to get that cap in college football.
It just seems
Donnie's gonna fix all the sports.
it seems silly to walk it back, but that's just my opinion. It's some big news in the
now
world.
they should let people gamble on baseball.
Yes.
Just straight up.
Yeah,
Like, we're not bringing back the list.
I agree.
Just go.
I like this.
Go crazy.
I like this. In the world of entertainment, we have some news. Do you want to start with yours or mine?
We can start with yours.
Okay, mine's a little less exciting.
I don't know.
HBO Max is back.
No, HBO Max.
Oh, let me rephrase.
Formerly Max, formerly
HBO
Blue Max, formerly Purple
Max.
Max, formerly Purple HBO Max, is now Black HBO Max.
Yeah. So if you had any confusion about what that brand is going on, what they've got going on right there, it will be now HBO Max again.
As it was under 3 years ago.
Correct.
That is, count them, 5 logo and name changes in 3 years.
Yeah, it's wild. When do they go back to? Casey asked the question. When do they go back to HBO? Just regular HBO?
Well, the channel still is, right?
Yeah, but when do they do HBO? Like, just they call their app HBO too.
That's interesting.
I imagine it'll happen.
Interesting. Well, I would imagine they go back to Purple Max first.
Yeah, Purple. You're right. It will go back to Purple Max before it then goes to HBO Max Purple.
It was Black Max for exactly 2 weeks.
Yeah. Do you? We all agree Blue Max is the worst.
Blue Max, no, the first Purple Max is the worst
Okay.
after HBO Max in 2023.
You're right.
Because that A is poor.
That's a bad A.
That A is poor.
Okay, that makes sense.
Poor logos.
But
not good.
But good for HBO. All right, so now we're going to go to your breaking news, which is vastly more fun than mine.
Still talking TV.
That's right.
Still talking movies. We got a
look at
football
this.
movie, a sports movie, and it looks great so far. Nick Cage and Christian Bale will star in David O. Russell's upcoming Madden biopic. Christian Bale will star as Al Davis, and Nick Cage as John Madden. They look unbelievable. And the first pictures of this movie, very, very excited to see it.
I'm in.
Football movies are always a blast, and I can't wait for this one. 2 great actors. Very, very famous for an Office franchise. That movie is going to rock. I'm very excited. We also have the Jordan Peele football movie coming out, the horror movie coming out.
That movie, all right, I'm going to be honest with you. That movie doesn't speak out to me. That one, I don't understand. And maybe that's how trailers should be. I genuinely have no idea what that movie's about.
Okay.
Genuinely have no clue. Like, there's, like, demons. He gets hit in the head, and then there's demons.
Yeah, he's a top prospect, and he goes to train with, like, his idol and sells his soul to be the #1 draft pick.
Okay, all right. That's fair. I listened to a new Eric Church song, and speaking of selling your soul, you know the Devil Went Down to Georgia song?
I do.
He made a song, it's called Johnny, and it's kind of playing off that song. It's about
Johnny from the song?
Yeah, if Johnny.
Interesting.
Yeah, go listen to it. Not to plug Eric Church, but go listen to Eric Church's new album. It's pretty good.
I like Eric Church.
I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I'll mention it now as well. So Chatterbox Sports will be hosting a $100,000 golf tournament. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Chatterbox Sports' Twitter and go to 513golf.com, and you will see the sign up and registration for this event. It would be a 2-man scramble type event. There will be 4 qualifying events heading into the championship event, the championship round. So go check that out. Go sign up. I can't imagine there's going to be another pot quite as big as this in the city for golf. I have a hard time believing. So if you haven't yet checked it out and you are a good golfer, a decent golfer, then go ahead and sign up for it. It should be a fun time. Colin Will says in the chat, Elliott Shirley should dominate that scramble since he can win the Masters.
You still have, 6-7 years?
Well, no, I don't have 6-7 years because I never started the timeline. I never started training. The 10 years starts when I begin to train.
Yeah, but
I have to train.
You could do it in 6 or 7 years.
I think I could do it in 3, but I
we all
need
know
every
you
day.
could. We all know you could.
But yeah, so go check that out if I haven't seen that. Any other breaking news that I forgot to mention? I thought there was one I skipped in headlines.
Just a lot of schedule leaks, a lot of stuff that doesn't have any confirmation. That seems like a lot of fun, but we'll see what happens. Nothing too major.
I don't like schedule leaks. I don't like leaking everything. I wish everything would just stay sacred.
Yeah, we don't ever steal bits from Barstool Sports shows, but one of the best ideas of all time from Barstool Big Cat, we'll give him credit since we're using it for the first time here. He said that they should drop the schedules without any kind of date or anything.
Yeah.
Or opponents.
I agree.
It's just bang, Tuesday morning, you wake up, full schedule.
I agree. I shouldn't know my opponent.
No.
You should know your division, and that's it. And I guess you can get which divisions you play because you do it every 4 years or whatever, or every 8 years. So listen, that's all I've got. Casey, actually, here we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a little something. We didn't really cover it before, but this is the kit for the Hell's Real game.
Oh.
The fire and brimstone with the lion there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a little nice. I like it a lot. I like that they didn't change the entire kit. It's just the numbers, and it looks awesome. And I do believe Columbus Crew has the same thing. They have the same like fire brimstone sort of numbers, and I think they've got their mascot in there as well, and it's pretty cool. I just thought I would show. What do you guys think?
Yeah, kit is lame to call a jersey.
I agree.
And
I agree.
that font is horrible. That font is horrible, Casey.
I think it looks great.
There's like lines in the middle of the letters for no reason.
Who's up in the Hell is Real games? Like, is there a record since they've started that?
I'll check.
That's right.
The Hell is Real game. I will say that's always fun. Columbus. How does Columbus still have their team? I thought they were going to get rid of that team.
Yeah, I don't know.
They said they were gonna toss the Columbus Crew again. And then I guess they said they would save the Crew, and then it worked. So
Congratulations.
The protest worked for the old Columbus Crew. I have been to that arena, that stadium. That stadium's pretty cool.
The new one or the old one?
Is there a new one?
I think so.
Oh, they got rid of the old one?
I think it's called New Crew Stadium.
Is it really?
I think so.
Oh, I haven't been.
It's a new Avengers kind of ordeal.
No, I haven't.
Real lazy with it.
I haven't been to the new one.
Columbus Crew have the record all time.
Close?
What is it?
Can we get it back this year?
No.
Ah.
They have double the amount of wins.
Oh, Barracuda.
That's not very good, Casey.
No.
Mousecop also adds they have won 2 MLS Cups since they have been saved.
Good thing that doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
Oh, that's so mean.
Well, I mean, we won the Supporters' Shield. We all know that's more important.
The Supporters' Shield is. You're right. That's actually. Right.
If Casey's taught me one thing about soccer, it's all that matters is the regular season.
I mean, it is for soccer fans.
No, I'm not. We're better. They've won the championship, but we got that little piece of metal at the end of the regular season, so we're on top.
If we went by Premier League rules, we would have won that championship.
Correct.
We
would be moving up.
So if we played real soccer, that's what it would be. But we don't. We admit that we don't play real soccer, right?
I'm not doing this.
But do you admit it? Because we've won. We won the how the Premier League does it, which we can all say is one of the best leagues in soccer. Mm-hmm. They do it the way that we want it, so we won the real way.
If you want to Americanize soccer with this championship hoopla, you can have your MLS championship. We're going to play real soccer. It's actually called football.
That's right.
And we win the Supporters' Shield.
You know why they call it football?
Because you use your foot.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, talking soccer. I love talking soccer. What? That's tennis.
I know.
How do we get Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds to buy FCC and have them take FCC to the Premier League?
Why don't you talk to Linder?
I will talk to him because maybe they could work together and then we could do what's Wrexham?
Yeah.
Wrexham? I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's
Wrexham. I think you had it.
You're
okay.
Right.
So if we can get if we can get that situation here, and we can get our own little show and have Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney and the whole cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that's what I would want.
The NFL trying that double foreign game for the Vikings, trying to dip their toe in sending a team over to London. If we send an NFL team over to London, I will officially throw FC Cincinnati's hat in the ring to be the first MLS team to be sent overseas.
Your thoughts?
I feel like that's a compliment. It's a backhanded compliment, though, so I don't know how to feel.
I just don't want him in the city.
See,
use that awesome stadium exclusively for concerts.
I mean, that's absurd.
Just a roofless Heritage Bank. We make the Cyclones play outside.
That wouldn't be that bad for them, right?
I just don't think you could do it for like the first 2 months of the season.
No, I don't know.
Ice melts, right?
Yeah, but like nobody goes to those games. Anyway,
Yeah, no, you're right.
They would really see, and it's not televised, so nobody would know.
No, yeah, you're right. We went to one of those.
Only we did go. That was a fun game.
That was fun.
Did we win? I forget how. Did we win a bet on that or no?
We bet consistently for 60 minutes.
I don't think I ever won
remember?
anything. I think I lost.
It was the dollars.
Casey,
yeah,
can
we
you
just
win?
bet if there was a goal or not,
Okay.
and I did win.
Correct. Cyclones games are fun. You're right, game day.
Very
well,
fun.
folks.
Should we leave them off with the video?
Yeah.
Well, I think there might be copyright clips in there.
There almost
so I don't,
certainly is.
So I don't know if we should probably do that.
That first clip you're paused on right now, Casey, is
That's a
very
copyright
clearly
clip.
from a broadcast.
But again, go to Chatterbox's pinned tweet if you're interested in the golf tournament.
Yeah, it's this right here.
Yes.
That's
is.
it.
It's the pinned tweet, and it's this video. Go watch it.
Go watch it.
Everybody,
Thanks, folks.
Everybody have a good Wednesday. Enjoy Pete Rose night if you're going down. Stay safe. Love you all.
See you tomorrow.